Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. The next time you're out looking up at the night sky, I want you to remember this one crazy fact. Somewhere out there, right this very second, radio telescopes are pointed at the stars, and they are always listening. Now, most nights, they hear exactly what you'd expect, which is to say, absolutely nothing but the baseline hum of the universe. Just the cold, empty, static silence of deep space. But we aren't here today to talk about the silence. We're here to talk about the anomalies.
And that brings us to a seriously terrifying question. What happens when that silent universe suddenly speaks? Because, well, every so often, the silence actually breaks. We'll receive this massive burst of energy with zero natural explanation. We'll catch a transmission that seems to come from absolutely nowhere, loud and clear, and then it just never comes again. So throughout this explainer, we're going to break down the most bizarre, unexplained, and frankly unsettling signals humanity has ever picked up from the cosmic void. And we'll look at exactly why the world's absolute top scientists still can't fully explain them.
All right, let's dive right in with Section 1, the ultimate mystery, the WOW signal.
Okay, picture this. The date is August 15th, 1977. Astronomer Jerry Amon is sitting at a desk poring through these massive stacks of dot matrix paper printouts from the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Ohio. He's just scanning endless columns of background radio noise, looking for anything weird, when all of a sudden, he sees it, the sequence 6EQUJ5. He immediately grabs a red pen, circles it, and writes a single word in the margin, WOW. This sequence represented a 72-second burst of radio energy blasting from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. But here's the real kicker. It was nearly 30 times stronger than the background noise of the universe. And even more incredibly, it hit at exactly 1420 megahertz. Now that's the hydrogen line. Since hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, scientists have long thought that if an intelligent alien civilization wanted to say universal hello, they'd broadcast on this exact, mathematically significant frequency.
But as you can probably guess, that initial thrill gave way to a pretty frustrating reality. We got that incredibly strong, perfectly tuned initial detection in 1977. And then, nothing. I mean, literally nothing. Scientists have spent decades pointing the most advanced telescopes in the world at that exact same spot in Sagittarius. 1987 passed, then 1997, 2020, still nothing. The signal has never repeated, not even once. We've completely ruled out comets, we've ruled out satellites, we've even ruled out earthly radio interference. So, to this day, the WOW signal remains the single strongest unexplained candidate for alien contact that we have.
Let's shift gears now to Section 2, terrifying power, fast radio bursts.
So, in 2007, astronomer Duncan Lorimer was sifting through some old archived data at the Parkes Observatory down in Australia. And buried deep in those historical files, he found a burst of radio energy coming from billions of light years away that absolutely defies common sense. The sheer terrifying scale of this thing is honestly hard to even comprehend. The burst of energy released in just one single millisecond of this fast radio burst, or FRB, was greater than the energy our entire sun releases in a full day. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. We're talking about an event so insanely violent and powerful that in the literal blink of an eye, it outshines entire galaxies, traveling all the way across the universe just to wash over our tiny planet long before Earth even had multicellular life.
Now, since then, scientists have detected thousands of these fast radio bursts. And most of them seem to be these chaotic, one-off events, right? Probably caused by extreme cosmic phenomena like collapsing neutron stars. But then, we found FRB 121102. And this one operates on a terrifying cosmic timer, exactly 157 days. This specific FRB actually repeats. It fires off these massive bursts of energy and then goes completely silent on a perfect mathematical 157-day cycle, like absolute clockwork. And we have absolutely no definitive explanation for what kind of natural mechanism could possibly create a 157-day cosmic timer with that kind of devastating power.
But sometimes the universe just likes to play tricks on us. Moving into Section 3, the false alarm, mechanical heartbeats.
Let's travel back to 1967 in Cambridge, England. A brilliant graduate student named Jocelyn Bell Burnell is reviewing these massive charts of radio data. And she was originally just looking for quasars. But instead, she finds this signal pulsing precisely every 1.337 seconds. And it did not sound like random cosmic noise. It sounded so unbelievably precise, so mechanical, that her team actually nicknamed it LGM-1. That stands for Little Green Men.
And I really want to emphasize something here. This wasn't some fringe internet conspiracy group. These were some of the greatest minds in astronomy at the time. For a brief, genuine moment in history, they seriously considered the possibility that they had just stumbled onto an artificial alien beacon.
So, how did they resolve this crazy mystery? Well, what they found wasn't aliens at all. It was a pulsar. Basically, a pulsar is a collapsed, incredibly dense, spinning neutron star. It's no bigger than a city, but it rotates hundreds of times per second. And as it spins, it sweeps this highly focused beam of radiation across the galaxy. It is exactly like a lighthouse beam sweeping across the ocean. Every single time that beam swept past Earth, Jocelyn Bell Burnell's telescope recorded a little tick. Basically, nature had built something so incredibly precise that it actually managed to fool our smartest scientists into thinking we weren't alone.
And that brings us to Section 4, Vanishing Signals and Modern Near Misses.
Let's fast forward to 2003. Millions of people all over the world are running this program called SETI at home on their personal computers, basically donating their background processing power to crunch radio data from space. Well, out of nowhere, the network flags this highly unusual signal called SHG B02 plus 14A. It was detected in a patch of sky right between Pisces and Aries. But bizarrely, there was absolutely no known star or planet in that area that matched its profile. And even stranger, it drifted in frequency exactly like a signal being broadcast from an actively rotating planet, creating a Doppler effect. It was picked up 3 separate times. We had it. And then it vanished forever. No follow-up observation ever found it again. Most researchers assume it was just some sort of data artifact, but officially, it remains this unexplained ghost in our machines.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, and arguably the most exciting headline maker of modern times. Section 5, BLC-1, The Neighbor's Call. In the spring of 2020, the Parkes telescope picked up this persistent narrowband radio signal at 982 megahertz. Now that's a frequency that generally shouldn't just occur in nature, but what really made researchers freeze in their tracks was the origin point. The signal was coming directly from Proxima Centauri. That is our absolute nearest stellar neighbor, just 4.2 light-years away. And we know for a fact that Proxima Centauri has a rocky planet orbiting perfectly inside its habitable zone. Plus, just like that 2003 anomaly, this signal drifted consistently with planetary rotation. Just imagine being a scientist staring at that exact data. For months, top minds at the Breakthrough Listen project kept this incredibly quiet. They didn't want to spark mass hysteria or anything. But internally, they were aggressively investigating what looked for all the world like a genuine phone call from the star system right next door.
But eventually, we had to let the air out of the balloon. After an exhaustive, months-long analysis, the BLC-1 signal was finally traced back to earthly interference. Yep. Actually, it was just a really complex, totally unexpected mix of human-made technology right here on our own planet that was somehow bouncing into the telescope's receiver. Obviously, it was a crushing disappointment for a lot of people, but honestly, it just proves how incredibly careful the scientific process has to be when we're out there looking for needles in a cosmic haystack.
All right, for our final segment, let's explore Section 6, the sound of the cosmic void.
So in 2013, humanity achieved this absolutely massive milestone. Our Voyager 1 spacecraft, which launched all the way back in 1977, finally pushed out into the dark, uncharted waters of deep space. And what it sent back to us wasn't a message, but the actual sound of interstellar plasma vibrations. See, space isn't perfectly empty. It's actually filled with this incredibly thin, diffuse gas called plasma. And as Voyager 1 plowed through it, its instruments picked up the physical vibrations of this medium. NASA then took that data and converted it into audio. It is this low, droning, truly haunting hum. It's literally the sound of the cosmic void, the eerie resonance of a place no human-made object had ever been before. And it's terrifying, not because it's alien, but because it so perfectly captures just how far away and how incredibly alone that little spacecraft really is out there in the dark.
Which really brings us to the ultimate question we have to ask ourselves. Are we alone, or are we just too far away to hear the answer? As we've seen in this explainer, most of the signals we receive are really just the universe being strange or chaotic, or occasionally mimicking things it shouldn't. Human interference and pulsars explain a whole lot of the noise. But what about the wow signal, or those perfectly timed repeating fast radio bursts? Those still remain completely open questions. Somewhere in all that cosmic static, nestled right there between the false alarms and the data artifacts, one unexplained burst might just be the very first hello we've ever received. Thank you so much for exploring this data with me today. Stay curious, keep analyzing the facts, and never stop looking up.